Morning, everybody, and welcome to Chassidus in the Morning. 15 minutes to change your life. Look at this Aleph, Parsha Vayigash. I just wanted something to think about this whole discussion. That a lot of times you can think to yourself, 1 second, what is this going to do with me? I'm gonna go. I don't have older boys that are going to yeshiva. And what am I meant to be thinking? Like, why do I need to know about this? Why are we learning this? And the reason why I found this very exciting to learn is because this is what helps us change ourselves. A lot of time we read things, and I notice this myself, that we read something that's not exactly negea to my situation. It's not relevant seemingly to me, but it helps change my attitude towards things. And this is what this is meant to do. It's a long, short way. You learn things, you misburden on things, you internalize things, and that changes you, and for the better, Mitzvah Hashem. And so too here, I'm talking about how Yehuda started yeshiva. What we're trying to bring out here is how important yeshiva is, because a lot of times we either don't have an opinion, or we have this distorted opinion, or we've heard from someone else that they said something, and that's all we have. So this is knowledge. So I'm trying to bring out knowledge coming from the Rebbe, showing us the Rebbe's shitta on how, and this is Judaism. Shidduch. I have to look at it and I have to internalize it, and this is sort of why I was learning it. And of course, also means for ourselves, we should have a yeshiva within ourselves, in our day, in our lives, that we have time that it's set, and we realize that the continuation of our existence as from Yidden is dependent on setting times to learn and having our own personal yeshiva within ourselves. Stam, just a side, as our Gordon says, push the pause button. Okay. So we were saying yesterday that in Galus Mitzrayim, it was very difficult for 4 reasons. For 4 reasons more difficult than any other Galus. One was because the Galus Mitzrayim was the first. There was no Galus before this. And it was also because it was before Matan Torah. So it didn't have that same level. Even when they did learn, the level of learning didn't permeate and have an effect as much as it did after Matan Torah. Then you also had, it was every single Yid, like it says, that Hashem did a kindness, spread us out. So therefore, normally when Galus were spread out, so one person can't do anything. Like in communist Russia, they couldn't do mitzvahs properly. So us in America that can, or in the free world that can, we're sort of counterbalancing and helping them. But in Galus Mitzrayim, everyone was there in one place, and to the extent that this is even an Eved couldn't leave them there. And that was the fourth thing, that even that it was all stuck there and couldn't go out. And so it's very miraculous. The whole Galus Mitzrayim was very miraculous. But nevertheless, with all these difficulties and all these hardships that happened, the Yidden still always had learning. Now, hey, we already said many times. I'll say this again because it's so powerful. That Torah Chas Hashem Sefer History. Torah is not a history book. Some people learn Torah and they look at Torah as like a history book. Let me learn the history of the Jewish people. Torah, it's very important to realize that Torah is holy and Torah is Melashon Hira. Torah is there for lessons, and it's meant to teach us how to live our life, learn how to do Torah mitzvahs, how to keep halacha, how to connect to Hashem. And when we learn a pasuk in Torah, we have to work to sensitize ourselves to this. And we only hear this, and I'm sure we've already heard this a few times. You know how the Rebbe talks about always Torah Melashon Hira. Torah is not a history book. And I remember years ago when I was learning the sichos, religiously, like a few sichos a week, I kept on noticing this, and I said, why does Rebbe keep on having to bring this out? Like, I get it. And I realized the Rebbe is trying to ingrain it within us. And so to this little vart, Torah is not a history book, we have to ingrain that within us. Even every story and even every letter in the Torah is a lesson for all times in all places. So how does this whole story of building the yeshiva, Yehuda making yeshiva when Yaakov came, what does that all mean to us? Now is the right time for having yeshivas. At this difficult stage and period in time, and they were talking about, in the 50s, to even for now, I say it's such a hard time, and there's so much going on. We have to learn Torah. The The economy is not doing well. You have to teach a kid a parnasa. How's he going to make money? You don't have time to learn Torah. Yeah, you give him a Talmud Torah. It's like a day school. Till 8th grade, you learn a little bit. It's like a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And even if you're going to make yeshiva, to make yeshiva like it was in the old country, no, you have to make yeshivas more modern. You have to teach, half day secular studies, half day Kodesh. You have to just teach them things that are like practical more. You have to have good skills. That's what people come and people say, and we say to ourselves. I remember when I just got married, the thoughts that I had, like one of the thoughts was like, you want your kid to be well-rounded. This well-rounded, Or like when people go in shidduchim and they say, I want someone that's chassidish but normal. What does that mean? What does it mean to be chassidish and not normal? And this is all what they're saying. People come and say, make yeshiva. My son, let him learn high school, get a diploma, be a mensch. And even if you can do yeshiva, so yeshiva high school, have a nice, good diploma, do very good in his studies. And also learn a little bit of Torah. Yeah. And from this, we see the clear message from the Galus Mitzrayim. The situation was more difficult in times of Mitzrayim. Nevertheless, they didn't have any thoughts, they didn't any calculations. Does it make sense to learn Torah? Does it not make sense? Have yeshiva. Galus Mitzrayim, life was tough. To use a bad example, but like to bring it out, when the Chassidim, when the Bachim Techetum was escaping from Warsaw, and and going to Japan, the whole time the Frierdiker will always send them letters say establish yeshiva. What do you mean now I start yeshiva? Let me just survive. Let me just think about what's going to be for the next day. I want to take care of myself, and and even the Warsaw ghetto there was yeshivas. Like we said before, the yeshiva is the foundation of our life as from Yidden. Now, of course, I'm not. We also have to have in mind, not always the yeshiva. You have to find the right yeshiva for your child, and we have to make sure that he learns properly and internalize the message. There's always those things, but the hanacha, the axiom, is that the yeshiva is the foundation of Judaism. And even when times are tough, and you'd say even more so now, we have to learn. And there's always these articles go out on all the websites. How people didn't get a proper education in yeshiva. And there's organizations trying to stop the yeshivas learning Altar Kodesh, and this is and people want to know what the Rebbe's opinion, the Baba's opinion is very clear over him. Yeah, not just they didn't take into consideration the reality of Galus that they were in, but even to the extent what level of Torah they're going to reach. Whether it's going to be the source of creation, or even higher than this. From now, in our time, Galus is much less than that. The limit Torah, is learning Torah much greater than Mitzrayim, because we're after Matan Torah. Shouldn't have to make any calculations. You need to have a yeshiva. You need to send our kids to yeshiva. And they're going to talk about supporting yeshiva. But we have to look at the fundamental of our child's Yiddish chinuch. What's going to make them successful is their experience in yeshiva. It's going to yeshiva and having a good experience as well. That's just the side point, but that's an obvious caveat. Vav. This is also in regards to strengthening the yeshivas. People say it's very difficult now. We're very, our minds are very distracted, and also financially, so much to support, support all the Chabad houses, I want to support all this, my friend, and this and that. I have to support all these other things. And only after we ate, we drank, and we slept, to the good amount. As I was in shul this morning and someone invited him to come learn Chassidus in the morning on Shabbos. He goes, on Shabbos I try to sleep a bagel, meaning try to sleep 12 hours. So once I've done my 12 hours sleep and I've had my 5 vacations and I went to the best restaurants, then whatever leftover I have, then I'll give. Yarviach like bekisay yitin yeshiva va'av yivatzei misus nefesh yitin es yilad of the yeshiva ad gil shleish strei shana. I'm gonna have misus nefesh. I want to support the yeshiva and send my kid till he's 13. But la'adam zeh yesh leim. To such a person, we have to say to him, Mitzrayim hoyis the galus kashi yesim. Mitzrayim was a worse galus, but much more difficult. There's much better excuses to not send your kid to go to yeshiva. Afilu teven mishalahem lehaylud. They didn't have their own grain. Haya leim l'sheitet b'medina zara l'chapes teven b'shah shanoigshim amdu b'sheit al hareish v'al aksaf. They had to have they were backbreaking labor and had to get food from other places, and it was just the whole life was very difficult. We live in a much more abundant time than any other history in the world. Limay says, nevertheless, they didn't have their own grain, but they had their own yeshivas. You know, another example of this is a lot of the Rabbanim, we talked about this before a little bit. A lot of the Rabbanim, a lot of the Talmidei Chachamim and the Mashpirim that we have in Lubavitch, and over the last how many years, a lot of them came from the underground yeshivas in Russia, in communist Russia. And that's also the Frierdiker Rebbe, when he left Russia, while he was in Russia, what was his main thing? Was building underground yeshivas. So the kids could learn, and people had Mesiras Nefesh, so the kids wouldn't be found up in the government, so they could send the kids to yeshiva instead of learning government-run schools. And if you think about it, in those times, it was much easier to not do that, to let them go. And they had Mesiras Nefesh, they had literal Mesiras Nefesh for that. Nowadays, when it's much easier, and the time period is much easier, for sure, we should do this. It never says, with no, you know, I'm not talking about a person like this is the problem. A person comes and says, you know what, I'll have Mesiras Nefesh and I'll send my kid till he's 13. But, you know, once he gets older, then not. Yeah, we'll finish it for today. I'll continue tomorrow. And again, like I said in the beginning of the class, it's very important while learning this to build our mind to understand what is the importance, how important is yeshiva, and what's the Rebbe's opinion about making yeshiva. And so we can think about it for ourselves and internalize this message. That when we think about sending our child to yeshiva, this is the best thing we can return to. I'll tell you a quick story, actually, to finish it off. So when I was thinking about going to yeshiva, I finished public school, and I wanted to go to yeshiva. And so my mother didn't want me to go. No, what do you go to yeshiva for? Waste of time. You learn some, Jewish history. You learn the Chumash, Jewish history. And I love my mother. She's a special lady. So my brother, which he did go to yeshiva, but he ended off not as frum as he was. So I was trying to convince my mother to let me go to yeshiva and hope, pay. I didn't have any money. And so ended off the person that convinced her was my brother. Funnily enough, he was totally, he wasn't involved in yeshiva anymore. And he said it was a very good experience, and I gained a lot from it. And I think it's a good thing. She sent him. And that convinced my mother, if him that's not keeping all these things, he's saying, yeah, you could go, should go. It's a good idea. Can't argue with that. And listen, I wouldn't be here where I am today. For sure, Liv Chassidus wouldn't be, and for sure, my Yiddishkeit would not exist. That's for sure without the yeshiva. And even though my case is a little more of a yitzim naklal, not a normal case, and also it's not how we want it, but just bringing out the point that how impactful the yeshiva is, and even so we have an opportunity of our kids to bring to yeshiva. Of course, you have to make sure it's the right yeshiva. We're not just sending to any yeshiva. You have to figure out what yeshiva is good for your child. But if you do it well, and we have a proper mindset, and we understand this is what we're learning, and we really internalize it, and that the life-changing experience that will happen to our children, and thinking about also to our family. Now, if you have a brother that's in the yeshiva, let's say, or something, Also realizing, you talk to them, hey, the Rebbe thinks about going to yeshiva, how important yeshiva is. Even girls with trying to have yeshivas, that's how important it is. For a lot of kids, they go, that's the system, we just go to yeshiva. And this is very important for ourselves when we raise up our kids. We don't go to yeshiva just because of the system, we go to yeshiva because it's something special. And it's the foundation of Judaism. A lot more that could be said, but we'll have to stop for today. Have a great day and enjoy the rest of your day.